I had the pleasure of watching the first 9 episodes of the reimagining of Daredevil through the lens of the MCU. If you're around my age, meaning that you're getting old, the first time that you probably saw Daredevil was in the Spider Man animated series. That's the first time I was introduced to the character. The next time was in the Ben Affleck movie Daredevil, which I think is criminally underrated, especially the director's cut, the uncut version. Watch that version. It's a really good movie. Maybe a little bit ahead of its time. Then, of course, I would say mainstream audiences were introduced to the characters through the Netflix series. That's when Daredevil really blew up. The first graphic novel that I read about Daredevil was actually Daredevil Born Again. But this particular series, even though it has the same name on Disney Plus, is more akin to the graphic novel Devil's Reign. I'm just going to give you my overall thoughts. No spoilers because I don't want Kevin Feige and Disney to pull the black SUVs up to the crib because they would. Tyrese told me that they would. So I won't spoil your experience in watching the series. And as I always say, this is just my opinion. Watch for yourself and have your own opinion. But I'm just here to help guide you through the process. Let me start with the pros, the positives. The first episode of the series is probably the best episode of Marvel television since it went to Disney Plus. I can confidently say that is the case, and I think most people will agree with me. It sets it off in the right way. You will love the first episode. For those asking, will the action and the violence would that be watered down because it's on Disney Plus? I can assure you that the violence is very high. It's very gruesome. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to watch, but it does try to fit into that Netflix hardcore action type of feel. One thing that's different in the Netflix series, you never saw Daredevil during the daytime, which I mean that makes sense. I mean, Daredevil's he's devil. In the series, you see Daredevil on the Disney Plus a little more often when the lights are on, so to speak. The interactions between Daredevil and now Mayor Fisk are phenomenal. I mean, they are phenomenal. You cannot take your eyes off the screen. Matt Murdock, Daredevil, Fisk, anytime they're on the screen is when it just shines through. The performances that they put on definitely carried over from the Netflix series and are clearly the best things about the show. If the episodes would have just focused on them all the time, I would have been okay with that. Which leads me to a couple of issues that I did have with the series. Some of the side stories just didn't work for me. I'm not going to tell you what they are, but some of the side stories I just didn't care about. I have to be honest. They just did not work for me. Every time a side story came up, I just found myself thinking, "Hey, when can we get back to Matt and Fisk? When can we get back to Daredevil and Fisk?" That's really anytime there was a side thing going on, that was my thought. Secondly, you may have heard if you're into industry rumors and stuff like that, you watch a lot of YouTube breakdowns and things of that nature. You may have heard that initially the setup for this series was going to be more like a crime drama, more courtroom drama, and then Kevin Feige was like, "No, we don't. No, I don't want to do this," and they kind of changed. They pivoted and changed things. You could definitely tell there's some elements of that that is still in the series. So it seems a little disjointed. Like there's literally two different series that are trying to be combined into one. And sometimes when the transitions aren't done very well, it is trying to decide to be two different things. I will say when it does focus on what the change was, which was more Matt, more Fisk, more action, more less courtroom drama, is when the series actually shines. I also have to say Frank Castle absolutely phenomenal in the series. Absolutely phenomenal in the series. Uh, I wish he was in it more. I wish some of that side stuff that they did, they could have just did it with Frank Castle. It would have been so much better if that time was used more for the Punisher, more about what was going on in his life right now, more about what was going on in the streets in regards to him right now. That would have been a lot better than the side stories that they were trying to push. Overall, I would say the beginning of the series and the end of the series are spectacular, like truly amazing. You know, the first part and the last part are some of the best television that Marvel has ever put out. Some of the middle stuff, not so much. I have to be honest with you. But going into when they do the next season, if they focus more on what I think people actually want, which is Matt Murdock, Daredevil, Fisk, Frank Castle, the people that the audience is invested in, I think they're definitely headed in the right direction. Uh, it's a little jarring how good some of the episodes are, and then you get to one episode and it's just you just want to get to the next one to hope that it's gotten back on track. If you like the next Netflix series, you definitely will like this. I will say some of the things that Daredevil does in the comics are shown better on the Disney Plus series. The way that he gets around, the way that he uses his cane, the way he transverses around the city, I think it's done a little bit better on Disney Plus. I think the fight scenes you could tell are, while of course they were choreographed on Netflix, a little more polished, therefore looks a little more like acting. You kick here, I punch there on Disney Plus. But that's just nitpicking, to be perfectly honest with you. Most of the fight scenes are spectacular. And actually, one was so good that I actually had to rewind to because I wanted to see it again. In the end, great series. If you love the Netflix series, you're gonna be very hyped up about this. I think you're gonna enjoy what you're watching. Hopefully, I kind of gave you an outline of what you can be looking for. I would give the series a 8 out of 10 BSO stars. If it wasn't for some clunky middle area, some clunky side stories, romance twist that really wasn't working, for me, it could have been a 10 out of 10. It could have been a 9.5. But an 8 in this society right now, consider that a win. If you're watching this, you probably have too much time on your hands, but I do appreciate you. If you can do me a favor, if you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, BSO TV, and our podcast, The Headline King with Robert Littal, and Facts Not Feelings with Robert Littal on all of your podcasting spaces, I would really appreciate that. We're doing daily, weekly videos, insider information, things that you won't be able to get on the website. So please subscribe to these spaces, and therefore you get to see my lovely face on a daily basis.